So why would you get a series discount?
Discount.
More
loyal customer.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
The day ones.
So they're going to give you this if you're, remember when we talked about who did business with who for a long time compared to who just became a client?
Put some more pressure on.
That's going to be kind of what we're going to look at today, okay? So the first part, not so real difficult. The second part, yeah, some of the calculating gets a little confusing. So make sure that you write some of that stuff down. The other thing that you might get, or why they would really do this is, if you notice the second or third thing down there, to avoid reprinting catalogs all the time when their prices would change. So instead of reprinting that catalog for a weed eater, because they, it changed, and right now it's probably changing a lot, right? Because of parts and transportation and those kind of things, they might adjust their things. But instead of then having to redo that whole catalog, they would do something like this series discounts to get it to where they want it. Okay. Vocabulary-wise, again, the price that the retailer pays after the trade discount is your invoice price. So remember that when you're working through the problems and they ask you what is the invoice price, that's going to be what you guys would have to pay, or I would have to pay, but what we would have to pay for whatever we're talking about. Okay? An example of this is like they show on the board here. They're going to say that it would be 20, 15, and then 10. Well, if you're normally going to figure out a discount, what would you do to figure out the discount?
Multiply by.
Exactly right. So let's say, I don't even know what they had in here for an example. Oh, they didn't do that one. 20, 15, 25. Okay, so that one didn't have a price anyway. So let's just say that we had a $500 item. We don't know what it is. We don't really care what it is. We just want to figure out what we're going to have to pay. So as Yah said, you're going to take, so when they give you this 3% order, always take the first one and do what Yahir said. We're going to move their decimal 2 places, then we're going to multiply. And this amount would be what? How much? $10? What would this $10 be called? So this would be like my discount, right? So this is the discount, and then we have to figure out what the discounted price is, right? So what do I do with my discount? I subtract it, and I come back, and so I would have $490. So you have to go through the process of doing the multiplication, finding your answer, and subtracting, and then do it again. So with this new number, now I'm going to move on to the next one. So now I would do the exact same process, but I'm going to use 15% instead of 20%. Okay? But you have to do the subtraction every single time also.
Wouldn't that be $100, not 10?
Was it $100? Yeah.
I'm here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Come on, yeah.
Moved the decimal too much.
You moved it too much?
Yeah.
There we go. I didn't agree. Okay? So, then we still do it. Do we need to finish the process? So I go through, I get my new answer, subtract again, and then I do it to the third one. Okay? And then the grand total. So then, make sure you read the question, what they ask, right? What is the discount? If they ask you for the total of the discount, then you would figure it out by adding all those together. Okay? So the first part, not real hard though, again. So again, we would have that series, we would just punch it in. So let's try one out. Turn to page 433 if you're not there. And let's do letter A. What are the invoice price and the amount of discount? So again, you got to know the difference again. The invoice price is what we're going to end up paying at the very end. The amount of discount would be the grand total of all the discounts added together. Okay, so what are the invoice price and the amount of discount for a kitchen cabinet that has a list price of $260 with discounts of 30, 20, and 10%? All right, so try it out. 30, 20, 10%. And then make sure you answer both questions at the end. What is the invoice price and what is the total discount? Make sure you move your decimal the right amount. I'm going to try to write a little bit more out, because Merrick might start working on homework from home. Okay? Is that what you guys were getting? Times 0.1. So it had 1456, and then 145, 60, 131.04. So again, when they ask us the two questions, what is this answer?
The invoice.
This is my invoice, right? Remember, the invoice says that's basically the bill that they're going to send you. Now, what is the discount, right? What is the amount of discount? Now I'm coming back and I'm adding what? This number, and that number, right? And what'd you get?
128.96.
128.96. So that's a pretty good deal, right? That's a pretty good discount one. But again, the most important thing is to actually figure it out and subtract it, and then use that new number in your calculation for the next step. Everybody okay with the first section? All right. So now the next part of this is basically carrying on the same thing, but let's just say that you were with this company for so long and you got the same amount of discounts, even if it was a series discount, basically every time. So instead of going through that process, you didn't really care how the process went and how you got to that end game. The next part is saying, well, let's figure out a single discount that's equivalent to doing all that math. And then I just have to do it one time. That makes sense? So we're trying to simplify the process. Now, in this though, there's 3 different ways that you can do it. And that's where it gets a little bit confusing for some people. Okay? So the first way is called the percent method. The percent method is exactly what it sounds like. We're going to try to figure out what the total percent is and then just do it one time. Okay? So again, this is where it gets a little bit confusing for some people. So in this one, you are going to, and this is a process that maybe you want to write down, I don't know, maybe you don't, okay? So you're going to find the first discount by doing what it says. From, in your series again, so this one, I don't think there's an example. Page 435, we're going to do letter C. It was $900. That was whatever we're talking about. And then our series was 20, 10, and 5. Okay? So basically what this is doing, instead of going through that process that we just went through, we're going to basically do this one time and just reuse this new one. So the first thing you're going to do is take this first one and you're going to subtract it from 100. Again, 100 because the whole thing's 100, right? So this would have ended up being 80%. Make sense? All I'm doing is subtracting. And then basically they're going to say, well, what is 10% of your answer? So after you do the first one, then you go to the second in your series, and you're gonna take 10% of your answer. And in our case, the answer was 80%. So what's 10% of 80? Basically, we're just taking 0.1 of 80. So that would be what?
8.
So this would be 8%. And then basically you're gonna do that process all over again, okay? So the second one, we get to there. The third one, you're gonna take 5% of whatever is left over. So we figured out that it was 8%, now you're gonna go back and take the two percentages and subtract them again. Obviously the first one was from 100 because that's where we started from. Now we go to the next level, so we're gonna take 80 minus 8%, which is 72%. And now we're going to use that third in the series and ask ourselves, well, what's 5% of my answer again, which in our case was the 72. So what's 5% of 72? 0.05. Don't forget to move it. How much?
3.6.
We get 3.6. Okay? The last thing then that you do is take all of those, and you're basically going to figure out now, or sorry, with this third one, now you do the exact same thing that we did up here. So you subtract there, 72 minus 3.6 would get us how much? What does it say up there? 68.4%. So here's the question. If this is my total, is this the amount of discount that I'm going to get, or is this the amount that I paid?
Amount to pay.
Right. If it's 68% discount, that would probably be a pretty extraordinary amount of discount, right? So the amount or the percentage that you're going to use then, I would take 100 minus whatever we got for our answer, and that is 31.6%. And you get your amount. So here's where you're going to make a decision. You can use this percent, and you can use this percent. Obviously, they're going to give you two different answers, right? If I use the 68%, what should that answer be? So basically, somebody takes 68 or 0.684 times 900, and you get what? Somebody else take 0.316 times 900.
615.6 is the 0.684.
$615 and what?
6.
60?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe your invoice price.
Yeah. What did somebody do this one?
$284.40.
$284.40. Okay, so depending on which one you use, you just have to know what the answer is, or what the answer they're looking for. So if you use the big percentage, this answer would be your what again, Carson? What'd you say? This is my invoice price. If you use the smaller one, if you did your subtraction first and you did to the smaller percent, this would be the what?
Discount.
The amount of discount. So it kind of depends on what the, I guess, question is asking, which one you would want to do, or you just decide, hey, I'm always going to use the one that I get in my calculation, and then if they ask me the amount of discount, what would I have to do to get $284 if I actually did this multiplication instead? I'd have to go to my original price, subtract this, and then I could get that. Or you could just do your two multiplications, but it's just kind of how your melon works. Okay? You're going to get the exact same answer every single time, but it's just the process of getting there. Okay? And this is my percent method. Now, realistically, you should kind of know how to do all three of them. And I think they actually ask you specifically how to do the problems in the book or in the assignment. But realistically, you could use any of the three things that we're going to introduce. Okay? Everybody okay with that one? Okay? So again, just make sure that you keep subtracting. All right? The second method, a little easier, obviously, because it's in a chart. So this should be on page 434. Some of you, just make sure that you have page 434. in your book. My book didn't have that page, so I had to run it off. Classy, huh? So notice my chart here, right in the middle of this page. So basically what this is saying is, notice on the left-hand side, the table shows, across the top, the table shows what you would, or the first percentage in your series discount. And then along the left-hand side would be your second and third ones. So if you go back over to letter D, basically all you're going to do is use this chart and figure out the series and put it into that chart and then see the decimal number that they're gonna. So they're basically trying to lead you to like a number like this as a true decimal, and then you would just use that number in your calculation. So do you understand what I'm saying? But what you would notice is, could you do this series discount in that chart? Could you do 20, 10, 5? So go across the top, is there a 20? And then was there a 10, 5? And that answer is what? 0.684, look. So it's just a different way of doing it, but notice that not all of my combinations might fit in my chart. So if you were gonna be a company that would have that chart, you would have your real, what I would say, basic ones, or the ones that you would use over and over again that you could calculate. But does that make sense? You're gonna get the same number. It's just a different way of doing it. So look over on letter D. On letter D, it says my series is 35.5. And then they give you a list price, and they want you to find the same two things, right? The invoice and the discount. So what is my decimal if the series is 35.5?
0.63175.
So I'm going to take that huge decimal right there and multiply it by $34.16. So
Then you get 21.58, and that's what you're paying.
that's what I'm going to pay. Exactly right. Now, let's go back and read the directions right above it. It says, find the single discount equivalent. So is this, the 0.63175, my single discount equivalent?
No, that should be the invoice.
Yeah, that's the invoice price. So if they ask you for the single discount percentage, what do I have to do to that decimal? The 0.63175 in the book.
Subtract it from 100.
I'm going to subtract it from, in this case, when they give it to you like this, I don't know if I got the numbers right, but if they give it to you as a true decimal, then you're just going to take 1 minus that. Okay? If you're going to do what Evan said, then you would switch this one by multiplying by 100, and then you can use 100. Does that make sense? You're doing the same thing. It's just whether you're using the ultimate decimal or the one. But then either way, you should get what?
368.
36? 8 what?
825.
25. So this would be my single equivalent discount. So the one that we figured out, or the one that's in the chart, is the amount that would lead you straight to the invoice. And so then when Yah did it, he said, we're going to pay, how much? 21 something?
21 and 58 cents.
21.58. And then if they ask us for the discount again, I got two options. I can come back over here and take this number of times my original, or I take my original amount and just subtract $21. Okay? So obviously the chart is probably way less math, right? You just have to know what the number in the chart actually stands for. Make sense? Okay? The last kind is the complement method. What does complement mean to you?
Don't get them very often.
What?
Don't get them very often.
They go with each other.
Yeah, there you go. They go with each other. They complement each other, right? So things that ketchup and mustard, right? They're complements of each other.
Black and white.
Black and white. Okay? So, in a complement method, this is what you're going to do. Number one, you're going to take each of the percentages in your discount. So take or subtract each percent from 100. Okay? So if we go to letter E, they said that my series was 10, 25, and what was the last one? 5, thank you. And 5%. What?
1280 is the list price.
Oh, okay. So, but the first thing that I'm going to do is just take 100 minus 10, 100 minus 25, 100 minus 5. And so obviously, if we turn these into decimals, we would take 1 minus this, or you can just do it after. So this would have been what, 75? And the last one would have been 0.95. Okay? So all you're doing is subtracting 100 to each one of those. And then after you get these would be the complements. We're going to multiply all of these together. So number 2, multiply the decimals together. And what do you get?
0.64125.
0.64125. Now it looks just like one of those decimals that we had in our chart, right? Or what we've been using from the beginning. So again, you got to understand what this is again. What would this lead me to?
Your invoice.
This would lead me to the invoice. If I wanted the discount amount, then I could either take 1 minus that or switch this into multiplied by 100, and then I can do my 100. Oh, I erased that one. That we did in the last one. So if we wanted the discount one, we would take those and subtract, and that would be whatever we got there. Did you do that one? 0.35875. But that's me just taking 1 minus that. Okay? So again, it kind of depends, or like I said, if you want to make it simple, you just teach yourself to use one of those every single time and just know what that answer is going to be. Is it going to be my invoice or is it going to be my discount? If it's the invoice and they ask you for the discount, you just subtract it from the original. But if they ask you for the invoice and you did it the discount way, you're still subtracting those two at the end, and then you would get your invoice price. So how much is my complement? If I use the complement method, what'd you say the list price was now, Johnny?
1280.
So I'm going to take 1280, and again, what are the things that they ask me in the problem? What is the amount of discount? So again, you have to do it how you're going to do it, but what'd you get for your answers?
$4.59.
Would be my what?
Discount.
This is my discount. So what's my price that I have to pay? $8.21 would be my invoice price. Okay? So once you get this discount, you just subtract the two, but there's a couple different ways to get to that discount. All right? Sound good? So a couple different things, but essentially you can pick one of yours that you like, and unfortunately everybody probably would want to pick the chart one, but obviously sometimes your series discount might not be in that chart. Okay? So realistically, you're between those two methods right there. Honestly, I don't know which one's easier. This one's probably a little less math, honestly, than all of that, but okay. And the first thing that a lot of people forget to do is subtract. Don't forget to subtract. Honestly, if you did all of these should lead you to that number right there too, shouldn't it? 25, 35, nope, it doesn't work that way. So you have to do the subtraction. Okay? But a lot of people forget to do the subtraction. All right? Do you need to see any more examples of one of those? Or all? So the first one is a series you got to go through and keep subtracting. And then the second one's my percent method to subtract. The second method was the chart. And then the third one is this complement. I think they specifically ask you to practice each one. In the quiz or the test, I think I just say you can do whatever one you like. Okay? So you essentially don't have to learn them all. All right?
10-4, good buddy.
The biggest thing on this is to make sure you read the directions and answer the question for what it's being asked. And again, the vendor C thing will make sense when you get to the